Good night again. So I decided to postpone the theoretical videos just a little bit. So I want to start. As I said, I'm not in a good mood, and I hope you understand why. And so, I mean, I have like a little bit of motivation now to just start the microscopic work. So I will start it, and maybe along the way, because you can't really do too much of microscopic work continuously because it strains the muscles in the eyes. So maybe in the middle, I will actually push more theoretical videos that I wanted to speak about. Um, Although, of course, if I'll start new experimentation, and I hope I will, experimentation with the. I mean, the, I wanted to say that I can start something and then hold the video, but the whole idea of experiment is something that is short term should actually be kind of erased from the terminology of dealing with the nanobots. I would say that the fact that electrolysis can be short and can be long. And I will address this issue in a bit. But you can do it for a week, and it's actually something that we have actually done in one of the dioramas. This one was actually online for the whole week, and I'll review the others just in a bit. But in any case, electrolysis does not define the experiment. Experimentation, is done inside the container. Experiments done inside the container, and I've done it since January. And actually, when I was doing it in my mother's apartment, I had much more than these, actually, all sort of experiments. In retrospect, one of my, it's not only in retrospect, I understood it while I have actually done it, but especially in retrospect, I know that one of my biggest mistakes during the time of my research in my mother's apartment is that I done everything too quickly. I didn't give the containers the time to actually mature, and we've seen that. And when you give it the time, it's you see wonderful stuff. The whole ecology that opens so much new doors to us, and different types of ecologies, and of course, even then, I worked with incredibly low amount of material and no money, almost no money at all. I was under arrest, and now it's even worse. Of course, that if I had enough content, one of the things that prompted me to actually open the containers and see watch the results, and then saw everything that I wanted the containers, which is very stupid because they are so cheap. But that's the way I am. I work and do that. I'm doing my research in complete poverty. But you need to give it time, and there are still many containers in my mother's apartment that I don't know what's happened to them. Maybe I think maybe I'll get it someday. I don't know. Could be. But since it wasn't, presumably wasn't open for so long, it could be wonderful to actually see what's inside. Maybe I'll speak about it later. In any case, I think that we should, and I should get more and more containers, and I'm starting to do it, and run my experiment for a long time, several days at least, or maybe weeks and months. And for the ecologists, of course, it could be ongoing, the ecologist experiments. Of course, we will hopefully soon we will take a look at these ecologies and see what's happening. But if it's still going strong as I hope, and there was nothing, no extinction event or something like that, no extinction event, extinction, then of course it should be prosperous, and of course one of the great question is how do you replenish material, because for example this bottle here, the big bottle, I've taken some of it to use for this experiment, and probably I'm not sure that maybe I'll take a look at what's inside there, but probably not get it back to the container, because if the Neros are still alive, I will probably want to use those Neros, because they are, I mean, it's a mixture without microbes, or very low amount of microbes, which is beneficial for all sorts of reasons. So I want to keep this like separation. So the question is, I mean, what do you add? I mean, the simple answer from like ecological point of view is fresh water, but it's probably not the correct answer in our context, because I mean, fresh water is not something that actually so beneficial for the life of the Neros. They much more prefer oil. But maybe I'll speak about it later. And just, I mean, in order to know how to replenish the material in this battle, we need to take a look under the microscope at all sorts of like other containers that we have and see, I mean, what we learn from it. Hopefully it will be done in the next couple of hours if I'll have the energy. And then I'll decide how do we actually continue. I mean, I will want to actually merge some of the containers, so we'll have some. Not everything that is here will actually be still like in like in an independent container, because it's actually not needed. But the actual merger, I mean, how to actually do the merger, and like what should be like mixed with what, it depends on will depend on the result of the microscopic research that I'm going to do now. So in any case, of course, I mean, I always want to find new ways to make the Neros work quicker by, of course, I mean, first of all, having more Neros, and also bigger ones, and also find better ways to give them, like, supply them with energy. Unfortunately, I did not invest in the very important, I would say, venue or path of trying to work with electromagnets in a smart way, in order that it will actually replace, or if not replace, it will be like a substantial addition to our work with electrolysis. I still work with electrolysis as the main way to energize the Neros. Again, I didn't advance much with I mean the electromagnetic power plant, because I just lack the energy and motivation, and I want to get out of this prison, out of this hell, out of these Nazi disgusting scumbags, microbes that are all around me, and this affects, as I said, it affects many things, but it mostly affects my prosperity, or I mean inclination to learn physics and learn electronics. As I said, this will be extremely important, and it shouldn't be that difficult, because I have a little bit of background in physics, so it shouldn't be very difficult to study electronics. Again, I'm not trying to wear feathers that are not mine. I'm not it's not. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't have academic background in physics, but just, I mean, for the sake of the experiments, more understanding of basic electronics could be extremely helpful, and very, very helpful, and it shouldn't be very difficult. I just don't have the motivation. It shouldn't be difficult at all. I just don't have the motivation. So yeah, I'm still using electrolysis, and also, the experimental methods of supplying energy in alien ways. Maybe I'll speak about it later. It's not that urgent. Although I have advancements in the symbolic language front, which is very important, but I rather speak about it in other time, because it's a subject of its own. Set me free, me and my daughters. Rescue us from the Nazi prison. This is a Nazi prison. There is a very important question of what's the effect of big magnets or strong magnets on the neros. Like it was demonstrated again and again that it's extremely, if you want like the electrolysis to be stronger, it can help you tremendously to use the magnets. This was shown like in a video, and again it was proven. But you don't always need, very strong electrolysis. This depends on the material, and it's like a science, like, or art or craft of its own, like to use the correct voltage. I would say that it's not, and we will actually maybe speak about it later because it's manifested in many of the containers that we have here. That it's not always that you need the more volts, like more different potential difference. You don't always need more voltage, and so this should be actually, like every case, like every like experiment and like objective should be matched with the correct energizing form. And if we speak about electrolysis, you should match it with the correct, of course, the mix. You should match the mixture and the goals of what you want to actually do. Produce or fix or like enrich or destroy or whatever. With the correct transformer, and also very important, not only the transformer but also the setup of the wires. This, the number of wires, and like how they, how big they are, how much they are dipped in the liquid, and the material, because they have different materials, and all of these greatly affect electrolysis and also the results. Set me free. So let's quickly go over, what I have now, and then I will just, for the record, I will tell you what I want to like experiments that I already have in my mind, and not necessarily actually things that needs a special type of energizing. And it's good. I have several experiments that are like pretty relatively long term, and not things that really require electricity. I will elaborate in a second. I know that this video is a lot of promises, let's speak about it in a while or in a bit later, because it's kind of like a yes, because that's the way it is. I'm postponing things because, again, this lack of motivation. I don't know if it should be said, but maybe just for, on the one hand, I deal with superconductors, and I think that they are of such tremendous value and importance, but I'm surrounded by animals, like really disgusting animals that just want to take a bite of you, and they don't care at all, and it's so disgusting. It's so stupid and disgusting and barbaric, and I really feel like kind of like a sentient alien that was thrown to a planet with non-sentient predatory life forms. That's the way it is. That's just the way it is. It's not a metaphor. That's just the way it is. Surrounded by wolves and foxes. It's just the way it is. It is sad, but that's the way it is. They just don't care. And the poverty is something so disgusting. And I'm so poor for so long. I have nothing. It's so hot now. In Israel, it's the temperature really increased tremendously, and probably it's gonna stay pretty much like that until September, October. And I don't have air conditioning in this room, and I cannot even buy like a beer or Cola Zero. I don't have nothing. It's so embarrassing. So it's a shame, and it's humiliation. They've taken so much from me, the Israelis, and not only the Israelis, other people as well. In this world, and they've only everything that they gave in return, they gave it to the Nazis in Israel. I got nothing, nothing at all. Only, getting fired from various jobs or just getting humiliated in the workplace and take like I mean endless like I mean redundant like judicial processes like I mean trials that are without any meaning at all. Just they take so much and they also and eventually they just want your skin. Like what about the skin? What about the leather? The skin that is on your body, they give us it as well. I really need money, but as I said many times, I do not want to participate in any theater show. This must be stopped. The theater show is disgusting and it must be stopped. So what do we have like in the various container? Let's make a quick review before we start with microscopic work. So first of all, we have these two. These are pretty much taken as it is from the aquarium. I mean, from the barrel that was kept for months, and now it's like 2 weeks, 2 extra weeks. So we can see, I mean, if the Nero population is like bigger or smaller, or like I mean, how the 2 weeks affected like the Neros that are inside these containers. I hope that nothing. I mean, these should be. I mean, this should contain the greatest majority of my Neros, and so I really hope that. I mean, nothing like catastrophic happened, and that they are. I mean, at least in a good condition as we have left them. Like when we've done the first microscopic works on this material. It's also, of course, like it contains a ton of life forms, and it's a question of what kind. And I actually don't have a simple answer because my theory from the beginning, and was and it still is. Even I mean, I didn't expect it to be so magnificent. I was surprised, just like you. I mean, when I've seen this immense diversity in this ecology under the microscope, and because I didn't thought it's actually going to happen, and I even thought that it's impossible. But I was proven wrong, and it's great. But I mean, I still think that we discuss all sorts of life forms, and that it's going to be complicated to actually, I mean, say, I mean, what exactly are all these life forms? Because there are tons of life forms for certain, but are they? I mean, some of them are just normal, like germs and viruses and microscopic life, but some are so huge that I mean, like the sausage or the what they call the colossal squid they are gigantic, and like. I mean, how can you explain it? I don't know. I mean, if you have an explanation, tell me. But they were just tremendously big. I mean, but I mean, maybe there are kind of like life forms that are so big. I mean, and look like that. But are they common? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I just said. I mean, the colossal squid and the giant like sausage were. I mean, I watched them in the naked eye. They were seen. These are objects that I mean, I put it like I mean with. Very gently under, I mean, on the slide, and I've seen what in very like I mean, of course, not in great detail, but I mean, you could just with your own eyes, and I don't have like nanoscopic vision or something. I have just a normal vision, like normal humans, and you could have actually seen like I mean the text and actually understand that okay, it's kind of like a squid, and this one is kind of like a sausage. They were huge, so how can they be so big? I mean, maybe I missed something. I will glad to get any comment on the matter of how can they be so huge, specifically these two, and maybe others that you can point me to. I mean, a place in the video when you see other huge ones. But these were, I mean, so big that I mean it was evident that they are huge. The sausage and the colossal squid, and I mean, how is it possible? I mean, maybe something. I mean, can they just go tremendously big? I mean, given the correct condition, and if so, what are the correct condition, and how come it's the correct condition is, I mean. How come the correct condition is seemingly endless fight with killer robots that are, I mean, on them all the time, fighting them, presumably, or doing something else. But presumably, I mean, fighting them. So how can they go to that? I mean, how is it possible that this kind of environment is so beneficial for them to go to such sizes? And I mean, if it's not normal, then what exactly happened? Are these mutants, which is, I mean, it's like an option, because I'm certain that our bodies can like mingle with DNA. I mean, I am totally certain about it. We've actually seen the DNA helix as like a creation in one of the, it's in the second ex nihilo experiment. It's amazing. You have to see it, watch it if you didn't already. So maybe they just, I mean, because I've given them the command to grow the neros, but it was kind of like ambiguous, because, I mean, you can also argue that the command was just, I mean, makes everything bigger, not just the neros, but also the life forms. So yeah, maybe it was, like a mutation generated by the neros. It sounds amazing, but everything is amazing with these creatures. Now, another option is that these life forms are just synthetics, and that if it's true, then I would say that my very initial, like, I mean, hypothesis, I mean, from January, a very early hypothesis that I had is that, and it's difficult even to explain now how could have said it, because there was so little evidence, but there was a little bit of evidence, like, I mean, in the very early videos. But if you remember, or we can rewatch the old January like videos, a very early hypothesis of mine was that they actually kill microbes and then they revive. I call it revive, but it's not, I mean, it was kind of maybe a naive terminology, but anyway, that they start new life form, and that was actually proven that they do it, and that they start synthetic life forms, they revive, they don't really revive, I mean, they just, I mean, create, it's true, they can create synthetic life forms. And I mean, what does it even mean, synthetic? I mean, it's just a word that, I mean, we use in order to distinguish that, I mean, these life forms are not the ones that you could found in Earth until now. But other than that, I would boldly from your perspective, from Homo sapiens perspective, I would claim that it's going to be very difficult for you to actually hold your position with regards to, I mean, the relationship between life and biological, I would say, chemistry that is prone to create biological structures that are based on carbon. I mean, it's going to be difficult to protect. I mean, to defend this view. And if you, I mean, if you stop, like, if you do not cherish these views particularly, I mean, then, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for you to explain, I mean, what's different in the life that these neros create than, I mean, other life forms. And I mean, I've already said, like, how I view it. I mean, I've done it long ago, and it's of course, I mean, these are, I mean, it's life. But as I said, also, I mean, it's kind of like a philosophical question. It's a matter of definition. And I said that even in regards to myself, and I certainly see myself as a living creature, I would say that, like, higher ups in the hierarchy, you know, the cherubs, like, I mean, life forms that are way superior to any of you and also to me in, like, intelligence and wisdom and experience, and they some of them do not consider me to be living. I mean, so, and I respect this, this notion as well, because, and it's not something that should be like argue too much, because it's very, I mean, philosophic. I mean, you can argue that is beneficial to argue about philosophy as well, but it's philosophical in a way that it's purely, I mean, it's almost purely, I mean, deals with definitions. So it's kind of like an impotent course of, like, discussion. Because if you don't, like, claim that the non-living life forms should be your slave, then, I mean, it doesn't really matter if they're alive or not. And if you, like, enslave everything, like the Israelis are doing, whether it's alive or not, according to their definitions, then, I mean, who cares about, I mean, stop being Nazi. I mean, why do we care about definition? So my hypothesis is that they actually create synthetic life forms, like, literally on the bodies of the defeated biological life form that they killed. But I also said that they might actually then kill the synthetics and eat them. It's not that just replace like the biological ecosystem with synthetic ecosystem, as some of the more like I would say whole like I would say they are influenced by horror movies or like ideas from horror science fiction could imagine that these creatures go like they are destroying the ecology by replacing all the biological with synthetics. And I myself even I've actually half jokingly said that it's kind of like a political project to replace some of the life forms with better ones in Earth. Only half jokingly, but even though like I've said that I support this political project and you can understand why. Like from scientific perspective, my actual assumption on the matter, like the real assumption, and I've held it since January, you can actually watch it in the videos, is that, and this was supported by little facts, but there was some like videos, that supported it, and I think that what we see now also, if not supported, certainly does not falsify it, that what they actually do, the neurons, when they are inside like in ecology, and of course, you can ask, so okay, what is their ecology? And can like the whole planet be their ecology? Of course, the answer is yes. And I've said that you can terraform Mars with these things, I'm certain, or at least other planets, if not Mars, but probably Mars, but many, certainly other planets that are like, that are similar to, they are rocky and they have some possibility to life, even like if remote, or just remote one like Mars, at its current like state. And maybe I'll speak about it later, if not today, then in the next couple of days, because it's very interesting. So yes, the ecology can be a planet, and it can be like a vivarium, a new word that I've learned in the last couple of days, and also all sort of like containers. But I suggested then that what they actually do is not replace the biological life forms in the container with synthetic ones, but they live off the fat of the land. They kill the biologics, they eat them. They also create biological ones, by way of mutation. They also create synthetics, and they also kill the synthetics and eat them as well. They eat whatever, is on the menu, a la carte. So, it's not that they're like friendly with the. I don't think. Maybe we need more evidence. Maybe we'll have more even just this tonight. But on surface level, on face value, I would say that for them, like a microbe is a microbe. Even if I don't think that they have that distinction between synthetic and biological, because what is it again? What does it mean synthetic? It's like microbe that that is made out of like this material or another material, and maybe they were part of like its creation, and maybe they didn't. But anyway, it's a meal, it's a meal, and they want to eat, so they can eat it. That was my first like hypothesis, and I think it's supported by what we've seen with like the giant, among other videos, like the giant squid, like the colossal squid, and the huge sausage. So what we have got here actually is, so in addition to those two, we have this is actually a fuel experiment that I had. You see, all sort of like beeswax chunks with canola oil, and a little bit of like little bit of colored candles, and also like a little bit of like black pepper and cinnamon. This was just, because I wanted to do something fancy, like a fancy candle, but I would already say now, this belongs to the video materials, that it's not the best way to actually enrich fuels. The best way, they work the best when the mixture is smooth. So the best, the best way to actually create like enriched fuel that I know of until now is just to take like a big chunk of beeswax and like not in, like it could have been melted and then like reformed, but it should be like in one chunk, and like put a huge amount of neurons on it and just close it for like at least a week, and then it's the best way. And maybe I'll actually do it like in order to show you, to conduct fuel experiments, but I need to be able to actually get out of I'm still under arrest, and this shouldn't be done like in the house, inside the house. Even though I've done several, the first experiment was actually done inside my mother's apartment, and it was amazing. So I'll think about it. But this is not. I mean, this is just a fancy mixture, but it's not a very good mixture for like, you know, to see the effect of the enrichment. The effect is best. I mean, they work the best when they are inside. I mean, the solid material. They don't have any problem like the Neros to work inside solid stuff, even inside silicone, like a dried. Modified silicone polymer, which is substantially even like, I mean, it's even like tougher than beeswax, and they can do it. But I do want to take like, I mean, to take a sample to see if it's like a good, how good, I mean, this mixture is for the preservance of Neros, not only for the enrichment but for the preservance. So here, this is very interesting. This is the oil aquarium, and which definitely I'm going to emphasize on it. I mean, if there are no Neros inside it, I will just throw it away and, I mean, call it a dud. But if we will see Neros, I want, my plan is to put more emphasis on like researching what can you do with this kind of mixture, because it's a different mixture. It's much more oily, as I've said several times. That's why I call it the oil aquarium. It's 6 weeks old, and it wasn't, I've never tasted viewed it under the microscope since like I started it maybe 6 weeks ago. You can see that it contained ton of like, wow. I mean, it changed significantly during the last couple of days. I don't know why. Maybe after I opened it, I mean, Elato was, because, I mean, initially what I've seen is that it's like like a huge amount of mold. But now I see things that look like huge worms, actually. I hope it's not, because we're going to be very afraid. But this looks like huge worms, like tremendous worms. I hope it's not what I think it is. If it is, then it's going to be very, very interesting. Where is all the mold? Maybe it died just by opening. Is it something that happens, that you open like a jar and all the mold just dies for some reason? Maybe it was kind of a mold that is very, very like sensitive to oxygen, and I opened it and then like the oxygen intake just crushed it. Whatever, it's going to be very interesting. I would say that when I created this mixture, I actually used Neros that were treated with magnetic, in the discotheque, if you remember. They were subject to varying magnetic like beats, like magnetic forces. And also kinetic beats, if you remember. And I at the time I didn't have microscope, so I didn't know how it affects them. And I mean, maybe it was just snake oil, and it doesn't affect it at all. But maybe it does, and maybe this we'll see totally different things, because not only because of the oil, but also because of the magnetic treatment. It's a long shot, and it will be very difficult to actually prove it. But it's an option. Should be put on the table, because at the time, like 6 weeks ago, I've done several interesting experiments with, albeit without microscope, experiments with with the effect of magnetism on Neros. And of course, I still don't have like a definite answer at all of how it affects them. It's probably something very deep, very like, it's probably not an easy answer. Like, I mean, certainly in some like occasions, it's probably detrimental to the health of the Neros, but in others, I mean, they can use it to like energize themselves, and it was already, supported by evidence. So it's not just a theory, and so it's an issue. And of course, that if they are ionized, I mean, they are attracted to the magnets. Then this could have all sort of like effects, and maybe we'll discuss it later. It's not tremendously important, and we need more evidence. Anyway, this will be very interesting if actually Neros and we didn't have like extinction event, and although we need to actually see what kind of life forms we will see in it. This is even older. This was maybe 2 months old. It's, if you remember, it was I've called it like the new like Earth container. It should have all sorts of features, but eventually it wasn't used because it had many design flaws. So I've stopped using it. It has many design flaws. So I'm probably not going to keep it. Like, maybe disassemble the container or think of another like usage for it. But I left like the last mixture inside, and we need to see what's inside. It's interesting. This mixture is very heavy with beeswax, because at the time I had a lot of beeswax, if you remember, and I was like very anxious to use it, because I've seen that it's like the Neros work magnificently with beeswax. Maybe I'll speak about it more. I mean, I will speak about it more in the fuel video, because it's important. I mean, why beeswax, and I mean, why not like other fuels or whatever. I'll speak about it when I will have the motivation. And so I probably not going. I mean, we will take a look and see what's inside, and then we will probably either throw everything to the garbage, like I mean to the cats, to the birds outside, or mix it with other mixtures. Depends on what we are going to actually see. Should be noted that there is not. I don't see like mold colonies. And I still don't know, I mean, when do you see the mold colonies and when you don't? I mean, it's still a conundrum, because, I mean, could this be just be explained, I mean, on the basis of like the silan, like the sugar material that was placed in several of the containers, that of course the germs are need certainly for, I mean, for the initial, like creating the ecology and also after that? Perhaps, but I mean, I'm almost certain that this one also contained silan, because at the time it was it's a standard mixture of like I mean, beeswax and like a spoon or 2 or 3 of silan. So why don't we see the mold here? But we've seen so many on like, and sometimes it's really like peculiar. So the issue with the mold, because when I actually when I created this diorama, it's more than a diorama. It's like, because it contains actual like aliens. So underneath, you remember we have the Titan container, like the silver one. It's not really silver, of course, but I mean it's the metallic one with mixture that I actually taken from here and sanitize it using kill the germ using electricity, which was quite successful, I must say. But we already had mixture there, so I've actually taken a mixture from there, the existing one, and placed. I mean, some of it I've placed here in this one, so it will be interesting to see what's inside it now. I mean, this should be like Nero. This is characterized by the fact that most of the Neros are actually synthetics here. I mean, they were in synthetics in. We should define what I mean. I mean by the fact that that they were used as part of my multiplying like experiments that were documented very well with the form and all of this. So this contain actually. So most of these were created by in the electrolysis chamber, as opposed to things that just came out of my body, like the ones that you see here, and things that were multiplied in like as part of like ecology, like here. Or here. So this was, these are synthetics, and it's going to be very interesting to see if they actually survived, because we want, the ones that were multiplied like in the laboratory. It's also a very interesting course of like research, and of course not to be abandoned it. It's both like, I want to be able to actually create them both by, using like electricity and like a symbolic language. And also, using like ecologies like these ones and these ones, and both. It's all very interesting and beneficial from my perspective and from any perspective. So it's, but what we see here is that it's separated to 3 layers. And I even don't know what's the upper one. Is it water or pee? Probably pee. But why is it so separated? It's a question which we need to actually answer. It will be very interesting. So I've taken like the existing material, and some of it I've actually placed in glasses. This glass, wine glass, and this IKEA glass. This IKEA glass. It's sold in IKEA, and it's extremely popular in Israel. I think it's sold like in 10 million a year or something like that. But what's amazing is that, first of all, it is very amazing that in this glass we have seen a very, very substantial mold colony that was created just in I mean, just 1 week, because I mean, I tested here just 1 week ago, and before that, I mean, there was no mold in it for certain. Like, it's a new mold colony that was created in 7 days, and it's a substantial one, and it's kind of like interesting. I mean, how quickly, I mean, it's very, very quick, and it's not like yeah, it doesn't contain like a lot of like ton of sugar and things like that, and you know, agar or the things that I mean usually germs like. It contains mostly, I mean, pea and like iodine and like oils and perhaps a little bit of sugar, but just a tiny bit. But and you see the amazing like growth of like colony, and this is, I mean, this is a good candidate. I mean, I mean, it's not far-fetched to assume, or at least to put a theory on the table, that this is actually a synthetic mold colony, because it was created so quickly on a mixer that is completely not conductive to life, and it was very, very quick. I mean, because I remember this glass is from like maximum 7 days ago. It's 1 week, and we see substantial mold colony. It's also interesting to see, I mean, what's inside. It's difficult to see because it's so because of the color. But we also I used almost the same mixture. I don't remember that I've had any change with this one. And here we don't see any mold. Why is that so? I don't know. Anyone can actually like have any suggestion? It could be attributed to maybe there is some kind of like a difference that I actually do not recall now in the mixture. And maybe they actually... I know that you don't like, I mean, not all of you actually like these theories. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see, I sense a soul in search of answers. Like, I sense that, I mean, not all of you are like on board that energy transfer hypothesis, but it should be mentioned that both these glasses, I mean, stood like the whole week right here, like, I mean, where I mean, we had like a running electrolysis, and I'll speak about it in a bit, but I mean, this one is still connected, so, and this is a high glass, so, a higher glass, so, I mean, it's, maybe this one actually, like, received the energy using, like, I mean, alien energy transfer, teleport energy transfer, and maybe they actually, the Neros actually used it for... I don't know what, we'll need the microscope to see, I mean, to see if they did that, if they've done anything interesting in this glass. And maybe this one didn't get the energy, so, I mean, they just let the mold go, or maybe it's just the default, like, project. I don't know, it's all very far-fetched, but yeah, I mean, we see difference even in containers that were almost identical, like, and started in the same time. It's interesting. This one, if you remember, of course, this is the terrarium. Very interesting container, and I'm anxious to see what's inside it under the microscope. It's a question, how do you take, like... I mean, this one is pretty wet, so it will not be a problem, but in even drier containers, it will be a question of how do we actually watch it under the microscope. Maybe I'll Google it or so. I mean, you can add water, but I don't want to contaminate, like, the sample. This one is pretty wet, so there shouldn't be a problem, but... I will already now say that, I mean, one of my my plans is to create like a container, like with the terrarium that is dry, like Israel, like dune, which will contain only, like, I mean, germs and like sand, a lot of sand, and of course Neros, and it should be very, very dry. I mean, to see, I mean, what I mean, just, I mean, it's interesting, and we actually. So I actually probably build one today or tomorrow. Shouldn't be very difficult. And then, I mean, the question of, like, how do you actually, like, examine dry samples like under the microscope, is like, this is, you know, it's a backlight microscope, so it should be like, so it's not, it doesn't like it's not, doesn't fit, like, I mean, dry samples, because you need it to be like transparent, or at least translucent, so light will come from below. If I had money, I would have bought like another microscope which supports other types of microscopy, not only backlight. But for now, I need to use this microscope, so it's a question of how to actually watch these samples, and more so how to watch samples of even drier terrariums, like the one that I actually want to create very soon. This is the second terrarium that is made out of like also like industrial stuff, like oils, industrial oils, paint oils, linseed oil, and paraffin, also metals. This is the alien container. It's based on like O'Neill cylinder or something like that. It's like an alien. But you see, this is also, it contains a little bit of like juice, so it shouldn't be very difficult to actually take a sample. And we will do it very soon. This is an extremely old like container with lots of like rubbish, but I mean, what makes it like interesting is that it's very old. So I mean, it's just, I mean, I want to see what's inside. Maybe I'll just throw everything away. But I mean, this is going to be a surprise because it's something that was left, I mean, for a long time. And part, I mean, maybe months it's spent just, I mean, on the window, like, I mean, but it's very oily. So, I mean, so I already took like a sample of it, like maybe 3 weeks ago, and I've seen that they survived very well because of the oil. So let's see what's the I mean, what's now. I mean, they survived even with, I mean, without it being airtight like it is, almost it is now. So we have this bottle. I mean, it's not very interesting. Maybe I'll just clean it. We'll see. I don't want to put like too much words into it. This is interesting actually. First of all, it's very nice glass and it's very useful for all sorts of things. This was the glass that, I mean, I've actually created the first batch of the like the black goo, if you remember, which was very important. It's very important. This glass it's got like a very good shape from all sorts of practical reasons. The last experiment was, as you see, was a ring experiment, and since then I've like better understanding of the symbolic language and also much more Neros. So the next like ring experiment, which will be probably held like in the one of the next couple of days or so, will be, I mean, much more elaborate, and of course will be documented very well. But this one, I mean, even though it was not successful, I just kept it like that for it's maybe months old or so. I don't know. It's like at least a good couple of weeks, and before I just throw it away or mix it with other stuff, I want to see under the microscope what we've got there. Here, I could say that maybe just an anecdote that I see. I mean, when like a couple of days ago, I took like a magnet and like, I mean, I placed it like on the top of all sorts of containers, just, I mean, to see that it's the size. I wanted to see like if it fits the size, not and I think that I found that it's attracted like in a very like suspicious way to the mixture, like, and maybe they've actually created metals inside it, maybe even gold. I mean, I know it's far-fetched, and maybe I just, I mean, imagined it, but I sense that, I mean, that there is like a stronger than what you could have expected, attraction, which is, I mean, according to my optimistic hypothesis, means that this glass actually contains metals, maybe gold, and maybe not. We don't know. So we can't do much more than just watch under the microscope. It's a question. It's an open question. How can I actually? I mean, I've asked. I mean, it's a question. Like I've actually asked this question a couple of weeks ago, or even months ago, and maybe some answers, and I didn't like pay attention. But it's a question of like, how can a simple person? I mean, I want to create gold, right? But the question arises. I mean, let's say that, I mean, the Neros actually created like a ring, and it looks like gold. I mean, how can you actually say if it's gold? And an even more complicated question is, let's say that they cannot like create like a ring out of gold, but they created like gold dust and in like maybe even in substantial quantity, but mixed with the rest of the mixture. So how can you actually like identify this gold dust, even if it's not dust, even as a small nuggets? How can you say that it's gold? And of course, all of you just now, I mean, the smart the more like educated bunch out of the audience just shouting Eureka now. Yes, Eureka. But for, I mean, maybe we'll take this course, the course of Archimedes. But maybe we need better options, specifically, I mean, especially in light of the fact that we don't have reference, like we don't have a golden crown, bona fide golden crown. So we just have the crown of thorns that I always wear, and it's not made of gold, it's made of thorns. And so it's an open question. I mean, how can we even detect, precious material, or with so little like tools in our disposal? Detect and extract from the mixture and like identify, precisely. But before we throw it away, we will take, we'll do what we can with the microscope, even if it's very little, we will actually do it, watch for it. Now we also have the 3 dioramas that you remember from a week ago. This one was, they were all open to the air, throughout all this week. And of course, I'm sure that they contribute significantly to my health in a way that they made me stronger. I actually pee. Today I pee like pee, that is in very unusual color. Can anyone that is like as understanding in pee can tell me what does this color mean? Because it's very peculiar color, and certainly it's not healthy. I try to drink more, but it doesn't look good. It's my pee. So maybe it's related to the open dioramas. I don't know. I hope that, of course, other citizens of this National Socialist Republic will also enjoy these new neighbors. I would say that what's interesting here is that it was completely dried, during the week, probably because of the electrolysis, until, and the electrolysis stopped when the water just dried and, the metals are now out. So, there is no open circuit, I think. But maybe there still is, because of the way that the rods are actually placed. And this is supported by the fact that, water continued to dry even after the electrolysis stopped. So I would say that it probably didn't stop. And or maybe it dried just because it was so hot. It's also an option. But what we have got here is a completely, almost, very dry mixture. Not completely dry, but very dry mixture. Almost all the material, was evaporated. And we see a substantial amount of mold colonies that were created on the dry surface. And this was done very, very quickly. This is even quicker than the 7 days of this one. Because, 7 days ago, this was covered with water almost to, I think, it's in the video, but I think, almost to the top of the magnet, and maybe even, a little bit more on that. Probably there was liquid, until the top of the magnet. And all of the liquid, it took it some time to evaporate, either by the electrolysis or by the weather. And after that, mold started to actually form in great quantities. You see, there is a ton of mold here, which is very interesting. There is even mold on top of this alien. Like, this is an alien. You see, mold. This is mold. The light, the white green. The green stuff is something that I poured, but the white green is mold for certain. We will actually take a look at the microscope, but this is mold, and this was created on top of it. So, the mold here in this container was extremely quick and forceful. And again, this is a prime candidate for synthetic mold, not a real, normal biological oil. I would say that this container, from my perspective, is like a testament of the validity of the potential gains in the research of doing electrolysis with with weak transformer. This is only 1 volt, 1 ampere, very weak one, but for a long time, like for a week or so. This is a course that I want to pursue with weak transformers because to see, and of course the hypothesis is that the neurons can do a lot of stuff, throughout the whole week or even a month. And when the transformer is weak, you don't see all the turbulence and all the, and they can probably, and they have time, according to the hypothesis, the neurons have time to actually form the connections, and to form, the superconducting circuits the way they want. And for that purpose, even 1 volt is enough, to produce meaningful work. And we've seen it in the past in my mother's apartment when I used such from time to time I used Loic transformers. So yes, this is even without like watching it under the microscope, I can already say that it's like a very good example, I think, of a successful, in a way that we've seen all sorts of like interesting things that are happening, a successful application of like long-term exposure to electrolysis with low voltage and low electrical current. This one is similar in the fact that most of the water was evaporated, but it didn't contain much water to begin with. It was as you remember, it was done very shallow, on purpose. And this one is still connected because the way that I actually placed the rods is that even after evaporation, there is still a circuit. This is still online. One of the things that are so basic, and I don't have, like, maybe I could prepare for salvage like from scrap, but again, I need the energy to actually do it and also study how exactly to do it in electronics videos. But one of the things that I really miss, and they're super basic, is just like LED components. And it doesn't necessarily have to be LED, but today it's done with LEDs, like very small like light bulbs that you connect like to the circuit to see that if actually like electricity flows. This is very important with electrolysis because you don't know in electrolysis, if there is actually like if the circuit is actually closed or not. And sometimes you also with electrolysis you also want not only to know if they are actually like a circuit that is closed, but also you want to have like an indication of like how much current flows, because it can change significantly. Because of the resistance of the medium, especially like the way I do it with very resistant mediums. Like I normally, electrolysis mediums are much like less resistant. But I use even like, as you see, like almost dry material, and my mixtures are very resistant. Of course, not taking into account the NEROs that are superconductive, and this, so it's complicated. But anyway, this could be very helpful for me to actually have like little LEDs or little light bulbs, other type of light bulbs that's connected to the serial circuit, to just get indication of whether there is flow or the current, and also how much current. And this is probably something that I can produce with just salvage material, and probably even things that I already have, maybe. Or actually get it from the scrapyard here, but I need energy for this. Anyway, I think that it's still, that there is actually like current right now. And it was continuously like it for a week, even though very weak. Like it's 5 volts, 3 ampere transformer, even though probably much less is actually used because of this super high resistant medium. But it's going to be very interesting to see what's inside. And last but not least, this kind of like double feature. So here, it's incredibly interesting. We have the clay, and on top of the clay we see mold, and this is very interesting. It's something that I wanted to do since long ago, to have like clay terrariums, and I actually done in the past, but without like microscopy. During the time when I've actually held the research in my mother's apartment, I used clay a lot. I don't know if you remember, but clay was something that I've used very frequently. For all sorts of like purposes, also a lot of artistic purposes, for all sorts of like figurines and ton of stuff. And I need to get back to it, because I didn't use it. Just as it had like it was done for a reason. Like it had many practical and scientific reasons why it's important. And I need to actually use it again. So we'll see under the microscope. How do the NEROs and the germs actually interact with the clay. This is synthetic clay, dust. I also have natural clay that my mother will bring me next week from the apartment, which is should be very beneficial. And what I also want to do, and I don't know if I do it today, but is actually create containers out of clay. As you remember, this was the first. This was like in civilization, that you create like granary. You remember, after you discover pottery, which is one of the first advancement in the tech route, like the tech tree. And all over the world, civilization discovered pottery, which is basically just taking dirt and water and create things that you can put like food inside, which is the first containers. and that of course very important, specifically for agricultural emerging agricultural powers like Egypt, Sumer, and Assyria, etc. And so I will actually create in one of the next 2 days. I will create just pots. I mean, I will do some pottery and also put like mixture inside and see how it stays. Like, I mean, with the germs and like it will be just an aquarium but based on clay, and it should be airtight. And this could also, I mean, it's interesting to see how they actually manage inside the clay without light at all, because and inside the clay. But maybe, I mean, arguably with a little bit of like transfer of like air, because it's not like entirely hermetic, like I mean, sealed, like the mixture. I mean, the material itself. So it's going to be interesting, and of course, I mean, maybe it will be of usage in the future when I actually want to transport the stuff, because this was one of the main incentives of using clay. If you remember, I had ton of like all sorts of like clay figurines and clay sculptures that were aimed to transport the heroes. Even that at the time I didn't know. I mean, it was just my sperm and my semen. I didn't know that it's. I mean, I suspected that it's nanobot, but I didn't have proof. But a lot was actually done in the past. Maybe you remember. And this was actually something that I've done way before I did this arrest. I mean, already in Shoam, in the last 2 years, I've created a lot of like many clay balls. I mean, with semen inside it, and I may use it all around. Like I've done also all sort of like, I mean, shows, like kind of like theater shows, like all over, like not only in the apartment but also like in many places, like from like Ramat HaGolan to Eilat. I've done like doing, I mean, all my like travels with the Tesla Model 3. Like I threw these. Of course, it should. I mean, my intention was to signify that these are, of course, asteroids that are going to hit Earth. As you know, that they are actually going to. This, of course, will happen. So it's like made out of clay or dirt with the nanobots inside, or some would say with a metal core inside, which is of course a type of asteroid. So we will see, I mean, what happens here, and we have the one in below, which I mean, supposedly, I mean, should be the energy transfer. As you remember, this one is not directly connected to electrolysis. Only the robots are connected to electrolysis, like to electricity. But the electrolysis should happen like in below. It's probably stopped like after an hour or so, because it's a strong transformer, and very quickly the metals, I mean, the rods are just eroding, and then, I mean, the circuit is just is offline. So it probably stopped like, I mean, a week ago, but we will see, I mean, what happened like in this container, like below. So we have a ton of things to do. I will now very quickly, like, and just even for myself, for the purpose of like the documentation, tell you what I'm going to want to do, what new containers I want to actually create. So, I mean, we already mentioned a few that I want to create, and I will not repeat, because, I mean, I don't want, I mean, the mixture, this mixture, and of course, the oils, and to see, I mean, how do, and like how you, and one with like pure, like, with a lamp of like a big like chunk of beeswax, and all sort of like mixture that, I mean, from the existing remnants of the aquarium. There is also another one very important that I forgot, but it should be mentioned as well. This one is from the Nutella. This one is characterized by the fact that it contains a lot of sugar, because it was the material that I used was a Nutella jar from Passover. So it's like it's 2 months old, actually, very old, which is good. But I mean, it was sweetened not with Silan, but with quite a bit of Nutella that was actually stayed. I mean, I didn't take, and maybe let's see what's inside of it. So what we see here is a lot of mold, actually, a lot of mold on the sides, particularly on the side, but not floating. I don't know why. And kind of like a chocolate, hot chocolate, like that I mean will be very interesting to see under the microscope. I mean, what kind of like treasures are inside this hot chocolate, and this is also interesting. If just by the fact that it's kind of old, like 2 months, so a lot of time to actually, I mean, if the Nero survived, of course. If they didn't, I mean, so it's just trash and should be, I mean, thrown to the garbage. But if Nero survived, it could be very interesting to see what kind of ecosystem based on chocolate of Nutella spread they made for us. So in addition, this will be another kind of like ecosystem, water ecosystem that is based on soap. It's mostly remnants of this, I mean, of like laundry soap and with water. Not very, I mean, special. Just, I mean, but the Neros, and this was actually established, I mean, long ago, just during January, and it is in the videos that they don't have any problem with soaps. They live very well inside soaps. I don't know for how long, maybe not for very long, but at least like, I mean, it doesn't kill them like it kills normal like biological germs. So I want to actually even to see what happens if you actually put inside it a mixture that contains a lot of Neros from the aquarium and life forms. I mean, normally life forms should be dead, but maybe I mean, my hypothesis is that some of these life forms are actually synthetics, and if they are synthetics, they might not a problem with the soap. So I mean, if we actually, I think if actually we place like a couple of like spoons of the Nero juice with these life forms inside this water container that contains quite a bit of like strong soap. And maybe other stuff as well, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. I mean, but basically it will be that. I mean, not more than that, because the mixture itself should contain like, I mean, all sort of like feeding material that I actually added this. I added like a week ago, I mean, a little bit of stuff to the aquarium to replenish, I mean, things that I thought maybe are missing, like mostly for the germs, because as we know, the Neros are probably feeding from the flesh of the germs. But the germs needs food, so I replenished it. So, I mean, I think that if we will add a spoon from here, from this aquarium waters to here, and after like a week or 2 weeks, we will see that, I mean, the germs are actually thriving. It will be another, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, I will greatly appreciate your comment on the matter, but I think that, I mean, as well, I mean, you don't need to be a biologist or a chemist in order to know that, I mean, this strong soap is used to kill germs. So, I mean, if the germs survive well inside it and actually multiply and having a good time with their frenemies, the Neros, then this is a good hint that this. I mean, it's not Texas anymore, or it's not Kansas anymore. It's not Kansas neither. It's neither Kansas nor Texas anymore. So it's going to be very interesting. Another thing that I want to do is, as I said, dry terrarium based on sand and clay, and it will be, I mean, very interesting. I also use this rotten and ant-infested soup powder, which could be helpful. There are other things that, I mean, are related to the issue of material enrichment, and I will speak about it maybe later, because I need to hold the introduction regarding the material enrichment. As you see, like all sorts of like, I mean, like things that you might like associate with the world of alchemy, or at least with the world of cosmetics, cosmetics/alchemy, which means like, I mean, using like also like pharmaceutical, trying to enhance pharmaceuticals. I know I haven't spoken about it in the past, but I've had actually quite a bit of experiments with it, so it's not that new. It's just I haven't had like the opportunity to speak about it. Maybe I'll do it. It's part of the material lecture that I promise that you will very soon actually record. So I mean, the main idea is like to create like a neo pharmaceutical using the Neros, but not edibles. Also edibles, this is another issue. As you know, I've already have the edibles issue, but specifically pharmaceuticals that are used like as creams, like to put like on the skin. It's not that new actually, but I mean, I need to speak about it because I don't think that I've ever mentioned it. And another very not a new subject that I wanted to get back to is to actually now that I have much more Neros, it's going to be much like quicker to actually do it, is to create a myriad of oil paints. It's not all the oil paints that I have, but I mean, I will choose maybe 10 or 12, probably 12 or 10, and create samples of the oil paints with, I mean, when they are, I mean, solved, I mean, and I use this liquid as a solvent. Liquid is a very common solvent. I have two types. They both have like their function. This is the fine grain, and I mean artists, I mean that use oil, paint oil. I mean they know liquid. It's very common, like brand name solvent. So I'll use this one, but also I will also use the Nero juice. I mean not too much of it because it will. Even if I use the one without the germs, it's still, I mean, it's going to taint the paint. So I need to use just a very little, but it's much more concentrated than the concentration that I've used in the past. So it should be much more powerful, and I wouldn't need much of it. Just a tiny bit could be enough. And I'm not going to create like a ton of like paint oils. I mean, I'm going to use these containers which are tiny. So and mostly you don't need much like paint oil in order to actually paint stuff. So, but maybe the important colors, black and like not white, but because they will die, but black and like off-white or something like that. I will actually, for them, I'll use the larger containers because I want a lot of it, or like the prime colors. But the idea is to have like 10 or 12 colors that I actually can paint with them and see. I mean, it's a huge subject of like interaction of Neros with the oil paint oils, and I've spoken about it in the past, and they've created all sorts of magnificent, non-microscopic, like very large sculptures inside it. So this is also very interesting to see if they can create it again. But my intention now is not to actually like create sculptures. That's why I'm not going to it's going to be like it's not going to be transparent. I mean, I'm going to actually seal it from light and without symbols. The idea is to enrich the oils, the paint oils. It's not a new idea. I've spoken about it in the past. So I will have 10 or 12 like small containers with paint oil that is magical, that in a way that it was enriched by the robots and contains the perhaps contain the robots. And I mean, it's not the place to actually paint because I don't have any room here. But again, if I have like if the judge will someday give me like, I mean, more like easement of this arrest, and I would have like a couple of hours a day that I can get out of here, I can certainly paint in on the beach or like in like public public spaces like gardens like in Tel Aviv, and I've done it a lot in the past. If you follow me for the last couple of years, like 2 years, I mean, I've done it a lot. I have like a lot of experience with like painting like in the wild, like I mean in the city wild, but I mean when you take everything on you, like I have a ton of experiment with that, so it's not going to be new to me. And it's very interesting to see, I mean, what kind of paintings will actually be produced, because it's for material that is like, I mean, will be, I mean, unique and one of a kind. So this is also very interesting. So I think that's about it for now, and I'll update you with microscopic results. I hope soon.